This week I received a letter from a viewer in Moore, Oklahoma named Yvonne Orr. And Mrs. Orr wanted us to do a segment for rural people who own livestock, and her concern was about poisonous plants, primarily a plant called white snake root, which is a perennial plant that is more common in eastern Oklahoma but can be found as far west as central Oklahoma. This plant is a toxic plant that has a toxin in it that's been identified as an alcohol called trimetol. And trimetol, when ingested by livestock, can actually cause a trembling disease and even death sometimes of the livestock. But if the milk of the livestock is consumed by people, it causes a disease called milk sickness, where people can become delirious and again even possibly die from it. Here in Stillwater, the OSU College of Veterinary Medicine has developed a garden that contains poisonous plants that are harmful to livestock. Sunup's Ron Dahlgren and producer-director Mark Reynolds went to see what it was all about.
Through this rustic gate, George Burroughs has created a pleasant, quiet world of wind and birds and color. The pathways, bridges, and benches provide a place for peace, contemplation, study. But if you look again, you'll find that this is not an average garden, unless your garden boasts black locust, white loco, milkweed, bitterweed. For this is a garden of plants that are toxic to livestock.
Well, it was originally developed primarily with the veterinary student in mind, but we tried to also make it such that it would be of value to anybody visiting the university or students in other curricula, botany, animal science, agronomy, these areas as well as veterinary medicine, but also so that it would be useful to anybody visiting the veterinary school, bringing animals, that they might be able to spend a few minutes over here and perhaps get a little better appreciation for some of the hazards for livestock.
These are not necessarily plants that will kill animals with one bite, but they are plants that can cause economic problems for producers.
We have ornamental plants that might be a problem in some cases for dogs and cats, but again primarily for livestock. And then we have plants that are native to the state of Oklahoma, and we've tried to arrange those in the garden with the same geographical distribution that they have in the state. Plus, we have a few plants that are not indigenous to the state of Oklahoma that are of importance for students who are going through the veterinary curriculum who might end up in another state or a closely adjacent state, so that they will be able to appreciate the problems there as well.
The garden currently has 50 to 75 species of toxic plants, with another 50 or so to be added in the future. All are labeled with their scientific and common names, their native habitat, and the problems they pose.
But we'd like to develop it so that it would represent a good cross-section of plants across the United States that are toxic for livestock, as well as to have almost all of the plants that are indigenous to Oklahoma of hazard to livestock.
The garden will add to the college's ability to teach future veterinarians, as well as to educate the public. Anyone is welcome to visit the garden. And by the way, the plants pose no threat to humans, unless of course you decide to graze on the foliage. From the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service, I'm Ron Dahlgren.
We'd like to thank Mrs. Orr for writing to us with her suggestion for the show. We'd also like to invite you to write to us about any comments or suggestions for upcoming stories that we might do this winter. Well, that's all the time we have. We hope you'll join us next week here on Oklahoma Gardening.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. You can also find more recent videos on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.